Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open an absolutely incredible archaeological cold case from roughly 2340 BC. We're going to use modern forensics to unravel the mystery of a man whose discovery literally upended our entire understanding of ancient Britain. All right, let's dive right in. Somebody had shouted very, very loudly, "Gold." That's a direct quote from an archaeologist recounting a totally frantic day back in May 2002. You see, what was supposed to be just a routine, low-key excavation ahead of a new school building in Wiltshire suddenly turned into the archaeological find of a lifetime. The ground had just yielded a treasure that hadn't seen the sun in over 4,000 years. Naturally, the press immediately dubbed him the King of Stonehenge. And honestly, you can totally see why. He was found buried just a couple miles from the world's most famous prehistoric monument, adorned with just unbelievable wealth. But who was this incredibly wealthy, mysterious guy? Was he actually a king? I mean, was he the architect of Stonehenge itself? Let's look at the clues.
Okay, Section 1, the 2002 Midnight Discovery. Let's trace exactly how this mystery man was pulled from the earth.
So, the Wessex archaeology team was initially just there to lift a few graves from a standard Roman cemetery before a new road was built right over them. But they noticed this odd, irregular feature that just didn't fit the Roman orientation. As they began to carefully peel back the earth, a tiny glint caught their eye. Gold. Realizing the sheer scale and importance of what they just found, and, terrified of opportunistic looters, the team knew they couldn't just leave the grave overnight. So picture this, a team of archaeologists desperately digging through the night over a long bank holiday weekend, illuminating this 4,000-year-old grave with nothing but the headlights of their parked minibus. Moving on to Section 2, Riches Beyond Compare. The sheer volume of physical clues we found in his grave very quickly separated him from anyone else of his era. 10 times! This single burial contained 10 times the usual quantity of artifacts you'd find in a typical early Bronze Age grave. Up until this discovery, archaeologists kind of assumed that Bronze Age society in Britain wasn't particularly hierarchical. But this immense, lavish hoard proved that actually extreme wealth and status definitely existed back then. Take a look at these. When the gold first popped out of the dirt, one of the diggers actually thought it was just an old, discarded beer can ring pole. And it's easy to see why, given their tiny size. But these are small, intricately embossed gold hair tresses, or possibly ornaments for a headdress. And not only are they beautiful, but they also hold a massive historical record. These are literally the absolute earliest known gold objects ever found in England. Now, this brilliantly illustrates exactly how our mystery man earned his nickname, the Amesbury Archer. Scattered throughout the grave and even placed right over his body were 16 incredibly sharp, barbed flint arrowheads. Alongside them were these flat, rectangular stone objects. Well, these are wrist guards. An archer would strap these to their forearms using leather just to protect their skin from the vicious snap of a bowstring. He was also buried with these 5 distinctive clay pots belonging to the bell beaker culture. Usually, you're pretty lucky to find just one of these pots in a grave from this era. Finding 5 is practically unheard of. And notice those fine horizontal lines pressed right into the clay. Those were made using a fine plaited cord, which is a highly unusual and super specific design choice for this region. Section 3, Clues from the Bones. Let's move to the physical remains and see how this builds our profile of the suspect. Because the artifacts tell us he was rich, but his skeleton tells us a deeply personal story. Our archer, who was estimated to be between 35 and 45 years old, lived a life of severe, lingering physical pain. I mean, his left kneecap was completely missing, which left him with a misshapen leg and a painful, chronic bone infection. His spine showed deformities from a condition called spina bifida occulta, and the tip of his shoulder blade had never even fully fused. Oh, and he also had a hole in his jaw from a massive dental abscess that had eventually healed. Basically, he would have walked with a heavy limp and suffered constantly. So here is the absolutely crucial point. Life in 2300 BC was brutally hard. Yet this man was not abandoned. Actually, scratch that, it was quite the opposite. The fact that someone with such profound physical disabilities was buried in the most lavish, wealth-filled grave of his entire era tells us something really beautiful about his society. He had a community that supported, cared for, and deeply venerated him. Human compassion, as it turns out, is ancient. Part 4, the Archer's Alpine Origins. We are now going to use modern forensics to uncover a massive twist in the Archer story.
Who was he really?
To find out, scientists turn to oxygen isotope analysis. Here's how it works. The water you drink as a kid leaves a distinct chemical signature locked permanently in your tooth enamel. By extracting isotopes from the archer's teeth, scientists could match those chemical signatures to specific climates and geologies all around the world. The results were literally earth-shattering. The king of Stonehenge wasn't British at all. The isotopes matched the local climate of Central Europe, meaning the Amesbury Archer actually grew up in the Western Alps. At some point in his life, he made this massive, arduous migration all the way across Europe and over the sea to Britain, bringing his distinct bell beaker culture and pottery directly from the continent. Section 5, the Archer's Companion. And you know the plot thickens here, because those frantic archaeologists digging in the dark actually found a second grave just a short distance away. This second grave held a younger man, probably in his early 20s. And get this, he was also buried with a pair of gold hair ornaments in the exact same style as the archer. But when scientists ran that same isotope analysis on the younger man's teeth, the results were totally different. The younger man was raised locally, right there in southern England.
So how on earth were an older alpine migrant and a younger local guy connected? Well, the bones gave us the final clue. Both skeletons shared an incredibly rare hereditary anomaly called calcanevular coalition. It's basically a genetic fusing of the foot bones that causes flat feet. And this definitively proves they were related by blood. They were family. Perhaps a father who migrated from the Alps and a son who was born and raised after the archer finally settled in Britain.
Finally, Section 6, Rewriting Bronze Age Britain. It's time to bring all of these clues together and reveal the archer's true historical identity and his lasting legacy. Now, amidst all the gold and the arrows, the most important objects in the grave might actually be the most unassuming ones. Along with 3 small copper knives, the archer was buried with a cushioned stone. This flat, heavy stone basically functioned as a portable anvil, and when combined with an antler tool that was also found in the grave, it forms a complete portable toolkit for metalworking. And this explains everything. The archer's immense wealth and status likely didn't come from being a warlord or a traditional king. He was a coppersmith. He was literally one of the very first people to bring the revolutionary, highly specialized knowledge of copper smelting from continental Europe straight to the shores of Britain. His migration fundamentally changed British history forever, basically ushering in the age of metals. Archaeologists today largely reject the idea that he built Stonehenge, mostly because the main stones were likely already raised by the time he was even born. But given his terribly painful bone infections, some experts suggest he might have traveled to the area as a pilgrim, seeking out the legendary healing properties of Stonehenge's bluestones. So what do you think? Was he a powerful king, a revolutionary metalworker, or a disabled pilgrim seeking relief? Perhaps he was a mix of all 3. It really leaves you wondering, when our civilization is dug up 4,000 years from now, what single story will our artifacts tell about us?